when a pop-up shows up and you want to click it away, or you accidentally misclick and you click on the pop-up, then the company might see, whoa, someone clicked our pop-up. Our pop-up is amazing. But I just misclicked. And every time I misclick, I get so angry on the inside because I know I gave them a positive number. Well, I get so frustrated.
I'll do.
Kim, welcome to the podcast, Shit You Wish Your Building Did. Everyone out there, I would like to introduce Kim. She's the senior UX researcher at GoodNotes app, which I thoroughly recommend. It's fantastic. Welcome.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Good, yes. And I am super pleased that you agreed to have a little chat with us, because I have this idea, right, that we as people who are using technology in commercial buildings are really bad at creating user experiences, and we're not doing a good job of that. So really, I wanted to talk to you today because you're an expert in that field, and maybe understand what people who design, construct buildings can learn about user experience as is being applied to the IT at the moment. So can we start off by you tell us a bit about what you do on a day-to-day basis and your background?
So my name is Kim, and I have a bachelor in artificial intelligence and a master in human-computer interaction. And with that combination, I started as a UX designer, which means that I design the experiences for people in apps and websites. But I really wanted to focus on researching the parts of that experience and not only designing it. So I've specialized more into UX research, and now I work as a senior user researcher at GoodNotes. But before that, I've worked at so many different companies. When you're consulting, you get to see a lot of different industries. And I think a lot of different industries can even learn from each other. So I'm happy to talk to you about this.
Yes, absolutely. And I totally agree, which is why we're having this conversation.
Yeah.
So explain to me then, let's say you start a project at a new a company that you started working at. What would that look like? What kind of objectives are you getting towards? Explain maybe something along that.
Yeah, so there are different levels, of course, on different perspective on where the client is at. But it always starts with figuring out who the user is, because it's called user research, right? And UX, user experience design. So how do you know what to design if you don't even know who the user is? So by understanding who the user is and understanding their problems and their goals, we design different solutions, and we can test these different solutions. And many people see it as black and white, like you have to build it and then you have to test it. But there's so many different ways of testing an idea. Mm-hmm. That is mostly what I do on a day-to-day basis, testing ideas and seeing that we're building the right thing, but also build things right. We can talk a bit about the double diamonds later, which is the methodology I use behind all of my work.
Okay, great.
But in reality, I try to make sure that we are building the right thing for the users and designing it in the right way, together with the stakeholders who are mostly concerned about making money, and the engineers who are mostly concerned about, can I actually build this? So it's a lot of stakeholder management and not only communicating what the user wants and needs.
Yeah, managing expectations, like a lot of different industries, absolutely.
Yeah.
So you said, right, understand the user. Who are they? So that would be collecting information, I guess, demographics. What else how do you define users? Do you have categories for them, or is it literally talking about writing a story about different ones?
It's a really good question. I normally, because we work in IT, we have Google Analytics and a lot of other databases where we can look into on who is currently using our product. There I have looked into demographics, age, which software do they use? Do they visit us on their Android phone? Do they visit us on their MacBook? How long do they use this app? Are there expert profiles? Are there like, how long do new people stick with us? There's so much data to look into, but it's also very important to keep in mind which users are not in there. For example, when I lived in Stockholm and I worked with a lot of Stockholm-based e-commerces, they would only focus on people in Stockholm, and they would serve all their needs in Stockholm, like 24 hours deliveries and like easy pickup. But then you forget that there are 6 million people not living in Stockholm. We didn't even think about maybe serving these users. And then you start interviewing the users who are maybe not your users yet and see how you can involve them.
Okay, that was interesting what you said at the end, interviewing users. So again, that's another data source for you guys.
Yeah, that is definitely another data source, because the data only tells you numbers. It tells you how many people are there, but it doesn't really tell you what the people are experiencing. And that's the core of my job, gathering these qualitative insights, asking the right questions, on getting answers to questions we really need to know. I like to give the example of when a pop-up shows up and you want to click it away, or you accidentally misclick and you click on the pop-up. Then the company might see, whoa, someone clicked their pop-up. Our pop-up is amazing. But I just misclicked. And every time I misclick, I get so angry on the inside, because I know I gave them a positive number. Well, I get so frustrated on that I misclicked on the pop-up. So numbers are just numbers, and it doesn't tell you anything about the experience.
So what kind of questions, obviously, again, it varies, right, depending on what project you're doing, but could you generalize a little bit? Like, what are the questions you would ask somebody? I mean, are you in the same room as them? Are you doing this over the phone? Are you watching them use the app while you ask these questions?
Depends a bit on where on the point of research I am. If I am in exploratory research, meaning there is no app, there is no website, we're just figuring out, is this an idea? I would just talk with the user on an experience. And I always talk about a real experience, because real experience give real emotions. If I ask you in general, like, what do you feel about the weather? You're going to say, oh, in general, it's really good. But I'm not looking for the general one. I want you to talk about the experience you had with the weather yesterday. Like, was it raining? And how did you feel about the rain? Was it sunny? What did you feel about it? And you could actually, by talking about real emotions, you get these real pain points and this real understanding of how a real person lives on their real life journey. So I could do ethnographic research, meaning I go to the participant or the user and I just observe them, seeing them doing their job. I don't even interact with them. I'm like a fly on the wall, trying to see and understand how they're doing their job. And then I can make a user journey of it, and we can highlight pain points and we can take it from there. But I could also interview them on specific moments, which is a bit more concrete, getting their opinion on things. I could also show them a prototype and let them like order something on the prototype. This is a bit of luck, but this is like 2 years of study on like how to run interviews. But if you want to get into interviews, there is this book called The Mom Test, and it's about asking the right question.
Okay.
Because some people, especially stakeholders, they think they can do my job because all I do is just talking with users, right? It's really fun and easy. You can just talk about it. But when stakeholders or like business people talk with users, I always hear these leading questions like, this is a great idea, isn't it? And no participant is going to say, no, this is a shit idea. They're going to say, yes, this is a good idea. So by just asking the wrong question, you can get the wrong data point, and then you build your whole idea on the wrong data. So if you want to learn how to ask questions, you should read The Mom Test. And it's about how to interview your mom and still get valid data, because your mom loves you. So she's going to agree with everything you say.
Nice.
But if you ask the right questions, like, when is the last time you used a cookbook? Instead of, do you think it's a good idea to deliver a new cookbook? Of course she thinks that. But when's the last time she used one? She doesn't even remember. Then maybe delivering a new cookbook is not really what you should be doing.
Interesting. So you're really trying to create a tool which uncovers these little nuggets of information or data or pain points. I guess you mentioned that point earlier.
Yeah. When I write this, I often try to write pain points and happy points, because of course we don't only want to fix the pain points, but you want to elevate the happy points, right? You want to make a great experience. You want to have this, wow, yes, this product is helping me feeling, instead of this product is doing the bare minimum.
I mean, in your work for the company now, I don't know if you can talk about specifics, but you got some examples of where you did uncover something like that, and it was like, okay, made a change to that app, and it was successful.
I can talk about another anonymous company, so that we can keep it in the middle.
Please, yeah.
Who is? Yeah. But we did a longer term research on how we could deliver support to the customers. There we built a proof of concept. So we did a design sprint, which means that we were with 8 people from multidisciplinary backgrounds into one room. And we started off with doing user research. So we tried to uncover the problem. Is it actually a problem? And then when we realized it is a problem, we iterated over different solutions and different designs. And then we suggested one design to the leadership. Then they hired a bunch of people who actually built this solution on how to offer support to the customers. And that helped like lowering the contact rate and giving happier users, because they could actually support themselves instead of like wandering around and having to contact support.
Okay, that's really interesting. Thank you. I guess now, like, maybe we can move the conversation a little bit to buildings. I mean, as a UX researcher, like everyone, right? You have some experience of using commercial buildings. I don't know, like obviously offices, I guess, hospital or healthcare buildings, et cetera, et cetera. Have you thought about this? Does it come to your mind, right, when you come into an office and you think, wow, this is a really crap user experience? Or
yes. You get influenced by your own job the whole time, right? I see it everywhere. Like websites, buildings. I'm just like, I'm ruined by my own job. I thought about the different offices that I've worked in lately. And funny enough, this is going to be a controversial thought. I'm sorry, but funny enough, the one with cubicles, actually a cubicle where I could close the door. I've never worked as efficient as in that office. Also, I've never been as unhappy in that office. And then I started thinking about what does an employer actually want if I'm at work? Do they want me to have a good time, which I obviously did not have in the cubicle, or did they want me to deliver a good product, which I did in the cubicle? I didn't stay there for very long though. So, and there are so many, sometimes it feels like the building is there and we decided to put you in here and we made it work. We put as many different people on this surface, business level, check, user experience level, not so much. Yeah. I've been in one office where I've heard how they designed the office, where they focused on like different use cases and different experiences. And when I walk in that office, I get happy. I know where I can work and I know where I can chill. I know where I can watch a movie. There's this whole experience in this office happening that makes me smile and makes me feel like they have so much space here and they decided to not put 100 desks in here. And that makes me just very happy.
Okay, so you touched on some interesting things there. So it was about having clearly defined areas which you knew how to use. That made you feel happy.
Yes. And just the fact that the company didn't decide to maximize the space with just putting a lot of desks in there and call it open office space. Because what is the purpose of open office space? What is the user goal being met there, except for the business goal, having a lot of people per square meter?
I think they say that it's to do like collaboration, that's something I hear. So they'll say, okay, well, we'll try and, they creating environments where people can meet serendipitously.
Yeah.
But also, yeah, go on.
How often do you collaborate? Actually.
Yeah.
And how is that the highest need? Is the need really that you meet this serendipitously and that you have this spontaneous conversations? Is that the main use case? Because it feels like the only use case on an open office space, actually.
Yeah, and I'm sure again it's probably due to optimizing the space as well, right?
Yeah.
So I'll come back to what you mentioned. We talked first of all about data, right? And actually, that's sort of I can see the parallels with buildings. You mentioned Google Analytics. That's obviously a really popular tool for measuring data on websites. And similarly, there's been a lot of work with measuring data points in buildings as well. Okay, you can't obviously call it Google Analytics, but looking at how people move through a space. How many people are in a meeting room, how many desks are free, et cetera, all this. And they're collecting that data and they're trying to use that to optimize the space. And again, people do also do a lot of user feedback and everything so that they, I'm sure they do a lot of employee surveys and obviously following people as well. So I feel like they are collecting more data, but I still think there's things missing, in how we think about user experience. Yeah, I mean, one thing that I was interested in, as I write about technology, I mean, do you feel like that is missing from the equation? Like you haven't actually mentioned it yet. Like, are there points where you think technology could help create a better user experience?
Yeah. I think what's the challenging point here for me is that IT is very agile. Well, building a building is pretty waterfally. It's like when the building is there, it's really there. And I think if we could take a bit more of the agile attitudes. Now, I don't have any experience in building buildings, so I'm sorry if I'm going to say something stupid. But if you instead of building it and then reflecting on how it's built and how it's being used, start with the reflecting on how something is being used and then take that input to building the next one, having this qualitative insights, focusing around the user. So within UX design and UX research, we use a double diamond. In the first double diamond, so it's two diamonds, one, two, next to each other. In the first one, you focus all about designing the right thing. Are we making sure that this solution is solving a purpose? Mm-hmm. And then the next item is about designing things right. Okay, we have the right idea, but we also have to build it right. A great idea, bad buildly is still a bad idea.
Yeah.
And I think that if we focus on that, we are building the right building, solving a purpose for users. If we can align on that first and then think about how we are actually building it. So I mean that the blueprint is tested and validated by data. Okay, in theory, this should solve the problem. And then once you start building, that's the part where you can start iterating maybe on these smaller angles. I wonder if it makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
What about other types of buildings? Retail, I think that's one that I find interesting. Right. Yeah. You've had some experience with retail, have you? I feel like you may have.
Yeah. So much to say on retail. On the level of how they build Mall of Scandinavia to coming into an actual store, is the purpose of the store to show as many clothes as possible, or is the purpose of the store to showcase what they have and what you can do with it. There's a store here across the street where they have only one item, so if they sell pants, they have 3 different colors and 3 different sizes. So in total, it's only 3 pants hanging there. And if you want to try out another size, someone has to go and get it for you. That's a lot of human labor, of course, but the store looks so sexy and so organized. And you kind of see what they have. There's not this overwhelming of like, I need to see everything. I need to go through all the racks. I can't actually get through here. I've heard the rumor that H&M is designed to be so tight so that you actually like move other places and you find new clothes by touching them. I wonder how people design stores actually.
They often say it's a lot about now experience, right? The retail experience. And I can see that, like it's becoming, it's not just about spending the least amount of time trying to buy something. People want more than that. They want the feeling, don't they, of having that shopping experience. I think sometimes, well, that's like not really applied to other types of buildings either. Like I think actually you could learn, unlike going back to the office, they could learn a bit from that, from creating an experience. But again, whether that comes back to the use of the building, I don't know. I mean, ultimately, you are trying to create a great place for your staff to be, but you also still want them to be productive. And again, what you were talking about, right? This dichotomy of like being in the corner office, like, but you were productive but not happy. There must be there has to be the happy medium, I guess.
Yeah, and that's all about meeting like the user needs and also the business needs. And this goes for like employers, making sure your employees are happy and work, or for a product that it's like creating a profit. But also what can you actually build? And that's sometimes where I feel companies on any level, whatever they build or produce, are a bit stuck in like, oh, but the status quo is this, so we build this. It's like companies saying, we have to build an app. And my first question is always, how do you know that you need to build an app? Like, do you use this product every day? Is there a reason to have a shortcut like this on your phone, or is a website good enough? So it's all about feeling, am I building the right thing? And am I doing this because this is the standard way of doing it? Like open office spaces are the standard way of doing it. Or putting a lot of clothes on a rack is the standard way of doing it. Or should you go another direction? Because there are so many different ways to solve these problems.
Right. And it's so easy just to follow that kind of tried and tested path, but it's really difficult to get off it. I mean, you mentioned asking sort of fundamental questions, but what else can you do to strip those layers back and really understand what you're doing?
Just try to explain it to your 5-year-old son. Like, because sometimes ideas make sense in our head and ideas make sense when you talk to the user and you're like, oh yeah, this is a great idea. And then when you try to explain it, it's still really complex and you can't narrow it down to like a level where anyone can understand it. And that can create misconception between like different levels of management or colleagues, or like, what are we actually building? Who are actually building for? So when I synthesize my interviews, I never share the full interviews with my colleagues. I go on and on and on and on until I have 10 interviews solidized in like 2 slides with 1 sentence on each. And then I try to convey that message.
Wow. Okay. So how does that process work? You don't know.
The moment I know how to explain this, I don't think I'll have a job anymore. But it's a bit, I call it like a bit of artwork, actually. It's about building a puzzle where you don't even know what the end of the puzzle looks like. So I make Post-its with quotes and I organize them by theme. And then I make a new Post-it with a summary of that theme. And then I organize these Post-its into themes. just as long until I have only 2 or 3 statements left. And those are the takeaways of research.
Okay, and that's
because if I tell you such a long story, you're going to forget it.
Right. It's just totally boiled down how much work, weeks of work into 2 statements.
Yeah. So I just talk to users. Sure. You have to make sure you ask the right questions about the right topic, and you have to like do something with the answer. You have to listen and take action on it. That's also some people, stakeholders, could forget. Like, oh, this user did not answer my question right. Oh, this user is not giving the answer I want. Let's forget it. This must be an outlier. Well, if you manage to interview an outlier, congrats on that.
That's great advice. Really interesting. Did you let's maybe finish off. Let's try and boil this down to 2 statements.
Yes.
If you so let's say you are you're going to advise somebody who has an office and wants to create a better user experience. What are the first steps they should be taking?
I would recommend them, what experience do they want their users to have or their employees to have, and what experience do the employees have currently, and then see how you can bridge this by testing different layouts and listen to the feedback. Where are you now? Where are you? Where do you want to be next year? And iterate how you can get there.
That's great advice.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much, Kim.
Yeah, I hope it was beneficial.
It was absolutely very interesting. And we'll put the link to that book. Anything else you recommend? Any other interesting reading about user experience?
Yeah, there is. So the MOM test is one of them. And the other one I always recommend to anyone is Just Enough Research from Erica Hall, which describes how you can do just enough research, but also pick the right method. She has great real life examples on big mistakes. And it's a book written so that anyone can understand it. It's 2 years of master summarized in 50 pages.
Wow, cool. All right, well, that's my reading sorted for the summer. Thank you.
Good luck.
Again, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. And it was a cool conversation.
Yeah, and good luck to all listeners. Hope you will make your users and employees happier.
Thanks, Kim. Bye.